So, World's Strongest Man is over. I figured I would relive the experience. I have no notes, I've prepared nothing, but I thought I'd just talk honestly and talk through the whole experience. Obviously, it went very well for me, and I'm absolutely mind blown to be beside the Louis Cyr Trophy and World's Strongest Man first place trophy. Absolutely cannot believe it, and very, very happy to have brought this back to Canada. First Canadian ever to win either, the fourth person ever to win both after Brian Shaw, Hathor Bjornsson, and Big Z. That company is company that I do not feel worthy to be a part of yet. I think I've got much more to go before I can be talked about with those guys. But to be on a list with them in any official capacity is absolutely beyond belief. But let's get into it. We drove from Toronto down to Myrtle Beach. That was 15 hours. And to be honest, pretty nice drive down. It was just Kate and I, because Fabian had to stay back home for a little bit. For those who don't know, Kate's the one who works with me and Fabian is the videographer. Hence, there was no footage of driving down. But 15 hours through inland America, which is always an interesting experience. Very, very, very American when you get in. When you get away from the water, really interesting is, I suppose, the only way to put that. But we got to Myrtle Beach super late on, would have been Saturday night. On Sunday, had no real obligations, so spent the day just sort of hanging out, getting ready to launch the new clothing, getting ready to do my media, all of that. Lots of business stuff to take care of, and lots of stuff were on the go between the new website, the new apparel, and some new stuff coming soon. We were a little bit flat out on Sunday. Then Monday was when I got most of my media done. They always give us a sheet and you just happen to do your media whenever. So got to see all the guys on Sunday, Monday as well. Some guys had issues getting in, which we'll talk about in a second. But Monday, I had all my pictures and videos and media interviews, all the stuff that you see when you guys watch World's Strongest Man. All I had on Tuesday was a quick interview with the guy who does sort of the background stories on us, talking about what it was like coming into my second World's Strongest Man after finishing 8th last year and having quite a solid run after that. I forgot as well, on Sunday, Kate and I went to the alligator park. Now, you guys see me do a lot of stuff before comps that most guys won't, in terms of drinking, going out and doing things like the alligator park. I'd be more than down to go to a swimming pool, or what do you call them? Like a water park. Because that's how I get myself in the headspace to perform my best. A lot of people will perform their best when they feel high energy and aggressive. I perform my best when I'm a little bit calmer, more relaxed, enjoying myself. And so I prioritize getting into that state over anything else. So that was Sunday, Monday my interviews. Tuesday, one small interview. Otherwise, a lot of hanging out by the pool. Relaxing. We ended up going out for dinner with the crew from Tyr. We ended up at Chuck's Steakhouse, which we went to a few times. But this steakhouse, she goes, do you want the large beer or the small beer? And everyone there, all the guys, said, oh, large beer is fine. She didn't mention though that the large beer was probably the size of this globe. It was like this insane 50 ounce. You can go back on my YouTube videos, a few back, and check it out. It's absolutely insane. More than I would normally drink, but I thought, why not? We'll give it a crack. But the groups were announced on Tuesday. And they were announced on World's Strongest Man live stream, which cut out, and the only live stream left was mine. So they were announced by me, which was hysterical. I couldn't believe it was happening. I was sort of 50-50 on whether I should talk about it or not. In the end, I didn't get in trouble, which is rare and exciting. So, groups were announced, and I feel like as athletes, we tend to want to think we have the hardest group, because you look at all the guys and you sort of break down what they're capable of, and you realize that everyone at Worlds is capable of quite a lot. That being said, in my group I had Mateusz was probably the number one guy I didn't want in my group aside from Pavlo. Now, I also had Ivars, which you never want a good stone lifter in your group. I also had Matt Reg, who I knew people were sleeping on. We also had, sorry, I'm blanking for a second. Me, Mateusz, Ivars, Matt Ragg, Spencer Remick, who won OSG, phenomenal athlete, and Hixie, who is well experienced, amazing static strength, and very, very good athlete himself. I'm looking at that group and I'm thinking, who on earth are we putting as the 5 and 6 seeds here, if you will? Who are the bottom two in the group? And it's really quite impossible to tell. So the work was cut out. That being said, the heat events were really good for me. I went to bed feeling as though I had a pretty good shot. But full form Mateusz on those events could beat anyone. And Ivars can beat me in stone. So I did not go in with 100% confidence that I was getting through to the final, which is probably a good thing. You don't want to rest on your laurels because sometimes you'll pull back one gear too far, someone surprises you, and all of a sudden you're not in the finals. Day one started off with loading race. I was in a group with Mateusz and Ivars. Us three were running together, and I knew that they would probably be the fastest two. That meant that if I beat them two, I'd probably win the heat. I got that really awkward log up onto the platform. Then I got the second awkward log up. By the time I got the second log up, I had a reasonable lead on Ivars, and Mateusz had a bit of a slip up on the first log. So I was able to sort of look across and pace myself as I went, ended up winning that event by a handful of seconds over Ivars, and the second group of 3 guys was not as quick as us, as I thought. So I ended up winning that, which was super helpful because the next event was the deadlift machine. And the deadlift machine was interesting experience. It got very, very heavy after the barrel 6 or 7. It seemed to disproportionately get heavy. And then the final event of day 2 was the log ladder. Day 1 of the heats was the log ladder. This is something I had been training really hard, and I knew that I could go out and execute, and I thought I could beat almost anyone. I had a bet with Liz that I could beat Pavlo Koriaka. And I did beat Pavlo Koriaka, but I didn't beat Thomas Evans, which only if you're putting 30, he wasn't in my group, but Thomas Evans, fastest time on log ladder. Who would have thought? I had no idea at all. Anyway, I won my group in the log ladder. I was very confident in that. I was in a great position going into day 2 of the heats. That being said, pulling back from day 1, the best thing compared to Sacramento, other than generally speaking, Myrtle Beach is an awesome vacation spot, the best thing was how many fans were there. The environment was electric. And this was only Wednesday. Wednesday, you could tell we were in for a cracking finals. So, in a very good spot. I had a handful point lead, and Mateusz had a couple of down performances, and that meant that Ivars was closest to me, and Matt Ragg, I believe after day 1, was closest to him. Day 2, event 1 was the Conan's wheel. I knew that if I won Conan's wheel, I was sweet and into the finals. I picked up that Conan's wheel horribly. Sort of like this. Yeah, after about half a lap, came down my arm, and I was in like this sort of like handcuffed position. That was sort of weird for about half a lap, and I thought I was in serious danger at this stage. I needed to get a lap in 3/4. It fell into my wrists after about a lap and a bit. Once it was in my wrist though, it was actually okay, and I was able to take along fine. I got a lap in 3/4. I probably would have conked out around 2, but I think next time I'll be much, much better. I think interlocking fingers, getting elbows close is going to be much better strategy, but good to know I'm competent on that, and definitely a great learning experience. My heats experience finished up with the kettlebell toss. I didn't want to hurt myself, but I did want to experience tossing kettlebells, so I went through this as though I needed the points. I hammered out 6 faster than anyone else. I just didn't get the 7th. I think there was 3 guys to get that 7th bell. I didn't give it a great crack. After I missed it the first time, I sort of just left it. That being said, hats off to those guys who got it, because that was really kind of chunky and awkward, that last one. I was through to the finals without doing the stone off for a 2nd year in a row, which was phenomenal. Big monkey off my back, so to speak, because I had the feeling as though nothing good could come from the heats. It only could be what was expected of me or a terrible performance. So, we're through to the finals. I went up into the VIP, and I watched the whole stone off in the VIP. I also went up between every event into the VIP. These people are paying great money, hoping to see us. I think it's the least we can do to get in there regularly, say hello, shake some hands, take some pictures. And after about 20 minutes, everyone who wants to say hello has said hello, and we could watch the event together, which we did, and it was awesome. Amazing stone-off performances. Biggest hat off to Rauno. Hard draw with Brian, but he fought so hard, and he had so many reps on that 210, which is not easy to recover from for the finals. So thank you, Rauno, 2 times over. 1, for letting me be in World's Strongest Man in the first place last year, and 2, for giving it your all in that stone off and potentially taking a bit out of Brian, but we'll talk about that in a second. In my group, Matt Reg against Ivar's. Matt Reg got through, very, very solid stone lifter, and to be honest, I thought that's what was going to happen. We were left now with the finalists, which surprise group winner, Jaco Schoenwinkel. Amazing, amazing job. Sometimes there's guys who sort of behave like, okay, this guy could definitely win the group. And then there's guys who just sort of come out of nowhere. Like Jaco, he didn't seem particularly confident. He didn't seem like he was ready to go smash it. He sort of seemed like, okay, we're here and that's great and happy to represent South Africa, but he just absolutely killed the heats. I never expected that to happen. So huge well done to Jaco. Him and Matt Reg also made the finals. Matt's much the same. They're very quiet, happy to go about their own business, but phenomenal athletes and absolute killers. Those 2 guys were through. Then we had Luke Stoltman, we had Tom Stoltman, Evan Singleton, Trey Mitchell, Brian Shaw, Mitchell Hooper, Alexei Novikov, and who am I missing? I thought I would do this. That's 9 guys. The 10th guy, I got Trey. Drum roll. I've lost it. Pavlo Kordiakou. There we go. So 10 guys in the finals, and I did a bunch of calculations on where I thought people would sit on average. And I do this every competition just to sort of see where everything will likely shake out, where points need to be made up, where I need to push, where I can pull back. And I had Brian Shaw winning the show. I had myself half a point behind, and I had Alexei and I believe Trey tied straight behind me. So I thought it was going to be a battle. No, sorry, Alexei and Tom tied behind me and Trey slightly behind them. I had about 3 points separating first and fourth, meaning that there's not a lot of places to not execute. We went into day 1 of the finals. Weather was a bit of a question. Now, something actually that I should probably bring to light. Everything doesn't run perfect at Worlds, obviously. Everything doesn't run perfect everywhere. And I think it's just highlighted the most at Worlds because there's the most emotion around it. So we did our equipment testing. That was all good. Then we were told we were going to have a meeting at 5. We went to the meeting. Colin Bryce incorrectly introduces Flex Lewis as Flex Wheeler, which was quite funny. Then we talked about the rain situation, and we weren't given a set of rules. The only time I read rules, and I say this because rules were particularly important this year, the only time I read any rules were when I asked for the rules on the bus on the way to day 1 of the finals. I read them. I ended up giving them back to production because they needed to refer back to. Otherwise, to my knowledge, no athlete actually had a set of rules that we traditionally get, a package of rules. No athlete got that. I was the only one who read it, and I believe Luke might have had a look through it as well. Otherwise, no one was clear on the rules from the get-go. That being said, there are some concrete rules in strongman, which brings us to event 1 of the finals, which was the shield carry. It was supposed to be fingerless fingers, but the weather was quite bad, so they pivoted. Shield carries a little bit safer, hard to drop the shield on your head, so we went with shield first. The athletes, we were sort of thinking, should we hold off? Should we just do shield carry straight away? Before we started the finals, unbelievable turnout. I was so impressed at how many people were there. Everyone was waiting in the rain. They were holding them away from the competition venue. And I went out with Fabian. We were going to the tier booth just to sort of check in and see how they were. I saw the lineups of people, so I thought the least I could do is spend an hour, so go off and sign some stuff, take some pictures. We have some stickers on our website for the back of your phone, I don't have it on me, but for the back of your phone, we got these moose ones that are super small. And Kate said that there's no way we're selling those to anyone. We're going to get proper ones. So we went out with these tiny moose stickers that I ordered incorrectly. Apologies. And just gave a bunch away, took some pictures, said hello and thank you to some people. So again, huge thank you to everyone who came out to Myrtle Beach. That support was amazing, and that's what we need to show Worlds that we can have bleachers in there. We can pack it out. We can, I mean, their biggest concern is if they got bleachers and not enough people showed up, then it would look bad on TV, right? Keep showing up in droves and they will adapt. They will bring bleachers, and hopefully there will be a live stream, but separate conversation for another day. Now, that was event one, okay, shield carry. Shield carry, I was up with Tom Stoltman. I essentially thought, if I beat Tom, I will be in a good spot. That was my entire thought going into that with him. Thankfully, Tom is fast, very fast with a shield, and I couldn't keep up to him. I did one lap. I came part way back, and this is at about 25 meters. At the time, the best distance was 45, between 45 and 50 meters. A couple of guys at 39. I got a lap and a quarter, about 30 meters, and the shield was already slipping. So I did a little bit of a pop, readjusted the shield up high, walked all the way down to the end, came on back, started crab walking a little bit. Ended up beating Tom. You can see those results. Beat Tom by the smallest of margins, I just really grinded that out. Now the story here is mostly around Pavlo, because Pavlo was the best at the shield on the day, but his foot didn't cross the line. Now, he was deducted 19.8 meters off of his distance, which is a harsh penalty for just missing the line. That being said, if there was an actual 100% proper rule, he should have been deducted 39.8 meters, because nothing should count until your foot crosses that line and then you come back. So whilst it was a harsh penalty, I don't think it was overstepping reason, because they did still give him a distance which arguably, to a T, nothing should count until he got across that line, and then his distance would have been about 30 meters or so. Tough, because we didn't have the rules to say this would be the punishment if you didn't cross the line. That being said, this is an event where there's a black and white. You either cross the line or you don't. There was some confusion there. Heart goes out to him, but I think this is one of those areas where we have to have some level of consistency. Now, let's just fast forward. We then went from there to the deadlift. The deadlift went really well for me. Then we went to the fingers, not so well. I won't get into too much detail. I actually don't know how much detail I'm allowed to speak in, but I went into day two, half a point ahead of Alexi, 1 point ahead of Tom, and 2.5 points ahead of Trey. I was not particularly confident at this stage. I thought, you know what, I am going to push hard for podium. And if I can hold off Trey, who has no weak events on day two, between the dumbbell, the bus pull, and the Atlas stones. Alexi had a banker in dumbbell, Tom had a banker in stones, I didn't have a banker. I just thought, you know what, we're going to give it our all and see how it goes. I certainly didn't think that I was in the best spot to win. That really doesn't impact my performance. I could think I'll come first, I could think I'll come last. I'm still in it to give it my all, start to finish, and I think I've proved that many times over with Worlds and with everything leading up to it. But this takes us to the dumbbell. Dumbbell was difficult. There was some questions around rules and some questions around equipment. Big challenge. The biggest was, should we be allowed to wear a medical cuff on our elbows to stop things like tendonitis? Now, that's their primary function. Their secondary function can be that they can help you lift more, because it's more material for your arm to sit in. I was very hard on the argument when we spoke about it in warm-ups, that with the loading race, with Conan's wheel, with the guys who did the stone off, with the log ladder, this is such a bicep heavy show up to this point. On top of the fingers to flip them, so much bicep was involved. Shield carry, like everything was bicep this year. Meaning that we needed protection. And I think that if we're not safe, what's the point of doing the sport? So that was approved. There was a lot of talk in the athletes' tents between us to the refs about what equipment should be allowed and not. There's no long-standing ill will, and I don't think that's going to be brought up. Again, I think it's sorted. I think we just need to be super clear, and we need a rule sheet. If we don't have a rule sheet, we don't know what we're doing, and this ambiguity will come up. Then we go to max dumbbell. I'm going to take a stance that I don't think anyone's taken on this before, or any stance that I've heard about the max dumbbell. I overperformed dramatically on that. My personal best was 125 kilos. I ended up hitting 140 kilos in the competition. That is the performance I'm far and away most proud of, and I believe what secured me the world's strongest man. There were some calls that were soft. There were some calls that were not as strict as they could be. For example, my reps, a lot of them, I locked out here. Now, I'll speak about me and just say that there was plenty of other soft reps given to other guys, and were soft. Okay? The reason that it's not a problem, and my opinion is that nothing should change about the judging of strongman in how it currently is. It can modify, sure, but nothing should change altogether. We don't need more referees. We don't need an official strongman rulebook. It's because I got some calls that perhaps would not have been called in other competitions. I believe a lot of other guys are in the same boat. I'll leave it to them to own up to it themselves. The reason that some of mine would not have been given good calls is because my body was not completely vertical. That being said, if your elbow and shoulder is locked out, the difficulty of going from there to there is not massive. There's something to it, but if you can hold and lock out for a second tilted, you will likely be able to stand up without concern. When you're lifting, you are putting in so much effort that your proprioceptive awareness of where your body is diminished a little bit. So, you'll see in every one of my difficult reps, I'm here, I fight to get back here, and as soon as I get the down call, dumbbell's gone, I celebrate. I think all we can ask for in strongman is that in a given competition, it is equal refereeing. No one's getting reps that they shouldn't get when other people are getting those reps. No one's getting reps they shouldn't get if no one else is getting those. If everyone's getting soft calls, fair enough. And the reason I think nothing should change, and I'm very firm on this, is because in football, in basketball, in soccer, there's a level of discretion that you have to put in the referee. Now, there are rules for basketball, just like there's rules for dumbbell. We all know what they are. They don't need to be written in a book. Your elbow and shoulder need to be locked out, and your body needs to be vertical. That's the rule to a T. And your feet, by the way, also need to be together and stable. And the dumbbell needs to have a moment of control. There are some refs in basketball that will be more difficult and more strict on the rules. They'll call lots of fouls. There are some that'll let you play a little bit more. This also changes when it's playoffs and when it's regular season. There aren't calls for complete reform of refereeing because of that. Who wins when there's ambiguity in how something is called? The person who wins is that who can the man who can adapt the best. The person who loses is the man who can't adapt. And to me, this is strongman. This is what we do. This is a challenge that is overlaid, and the only way that we should not accept that challenge is if the challenge is disproportionately placed on one competitor over another, which I do not believe in any way, shape, or form was the case at Worlds. Are there reps of mine that I believe would not count in a rulebook to a T? Yes. Are there reps of mine that were perfect? Close. Right? Are there reps that were locked out that I potentially could have got to that perfect position if not for the down call? 100%. So when we look at it all up, there is no sport in the world that has a referee that isn't given a level of discretion and that there isn't controversy around that discretion at some point or another. This is a normal part of being a sport. This is simply what a sport tends to be. And the times that I personally have issues is when a rep is given to someone that would not have been given to another athlete. Like, and I believe he would own this 100% himself, as would Magnus, like Martine's dumbbell at the Rogue. No one else was given a call like that, therefore it's an unfair competitive advantage. That didn't happen at Worlds. It just flat out did not happen. The difficulty, of course, and I feel for Alexei and Pavlo, because their lockouts were perfect. And if the judging was the most strict judging in the world, those guys would have had disproportionately good results. So fair play to that. But I'm not sure there's many others who could say every one of my lockouts were perfect, my feet were perfectly together, the dumbbell never moved, I never wavered. It's just a part of sport. And hats off to every single one of those guys. There was 5 of us who hit PBs. I hit a PB, Evan hit a PB, Pablo hit a PB, Trey hit a PB, I believe there was one other, I'm trying to remember, Matt Reg, massive PB. And let's not overshadow the quality of those performances by a moderate, lenient judging style. I don't even think it was that extreme, to be honest. But 5 guys hit PBs. Let's appreciate incredible work and incredible performances where it's due. Now, after the dumbbell, I came out happy as a clam. I was now in the lead by, I want to say 2.5 points, 3 points. And Alexi, me, Tom, Alexi were basically now what appeared to be the people who would finish on the podium. We went into the bus pool. We took a look at the bus. It was slightly adjusted by a performance by Mateusz. Mateusz pulled the full thing in 31 seconds. They let out some air to make it a bit more difficult. Mateusz himself was saying, I think that this is appropriate. These guys are tired. I'm fresh. I feel good. And so they let a bit of air out of the tires to make it heavier than when Mateusz did 31 seconds, I believe. All the guys were going. I was second last to go next to Evan because he beat me on the fingers, not on the dumbbell. We tied on the dumbbell. So everyone had gone. There's this unbelievable chunk of people at 32 seconds. I believe there were 7 guys at 32 seconds. Tom goes, and Tom has the lowest time, 32 seconds, still in that chunk of guys, meaning that if I did 32 seconds flat, I would get 7 points or 8 points more than if I did 33 seconds, which you can imagine the pressure on something that I've done very poorly on in the past, that now I have to go essentially win the event or lose the competition. I was quietly confident about track pull. I had gotten so much better and so much more comfortable. That being said, I was still thinking, you came 8th last year, you sucked last year. I started the track pretty well. It was lighter than I expected, and I essentially cruised through the whole thing, as a lot of guys did. I ended up winning that event, 30 seconds. Evan and Tom tied, and that helped me tremendously with a 5.5 point lead over Tom going into stones. The rest is history. I went in knowing in that last stone run I had to do what I had to do. I did not celebrate for 1 second until that final at the stone hit the platform, and you guys could see in my face absolute disbelief that I managed to do it. I still can't believe that I've done it. I still can't believe that I came out on top. Hugely grateful. Afterwards, the amount of support and positive words and kind words from so many people, the publicity, everything has been so humbling. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being a small part of pushing ahead and allowing me to win these trophies, including people like JF Caron, Hugo Girard, Maxime Boudreau, Jimmy Paquette, all of the Canadian strongmen who have come before me. These are ours, and these are things that you guys have worked to build the platform. Even though I haven't had a direct contact with a good number of those guys, a Canadian guy 12 months ago was lifting in a local gym in Australia, moving back to Canada with no invite anywhere. And that guy got an invite to World's Strongest Man after 2 local competitions and 2 state competitions. And I would be naive to say that Worlds would have looked at this Canadian guy who's got a decent track record in the gym and said that guy deserves an invite to World's Strongest Man, if not for all of the guys who had come before me and all those guys who proved that Canadians can be up there in the world of strength sports. If not for the invite to Worlds last year, I would have retired from strongman. I would not have all of these trophies. My life would be substantially different for the worse. So, thank you to all those guys who have come before me. Thank you to everyone following me, and thank you to everyone who's built the sport to where it's got to. And I'm really looking forward to getting that to the next level for the people who come after me. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep lifting heavy, being kind. Let me know how you think I did at Worlds. Positive comments only. No negative comments for the algorithm. Appreciate you. Leave a moose dropping. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.